First of all, as you all probably know, the last Voyage of the Demeter was released in Canada and the United States this past August 11th, 2023. And it turned out to be a lot of things, a lot of great things, which deserve a lot of credit for what they achieved. But make no mistake, because this much anticipated monster film adapted from the Captain's Log portion of Bram Stoker's novel Dracula is also something else. Unfortunately, it's a hard lesson that you can lead a boat to water, but no matter how meticulously designed and crafted it is, you just can't make it float as reasonably expected. You see, as of September the 8th of 2023, the Demeter movie had grossed $13.6 million in the United States and Canada, and only $7.6 million in other territories. So that's a worldwide total of $21.3 million, with $6.5 million being attributed to its opening weekend. It's a lot of raked in cash, right? Yeah, for you and me maybe, but not for Universal, who spent about $45 million to make this film. Yeah, not good. Especially when it follows closely after Renfield that topped out gross earnings of just $26.7 million with a reported production budget of $65 million. I could only imagine, based off of those two films alone, how nervous that the upcoming Nosferatu remake must be getting. Now, what was the reason for this? I mean, had people taken a break from theaters? Was it bad timing and maybe a matter of too much competition? Was it a terrible movie that fans and critics alike just put a stake through its heart and thus rendered it meaningless? In a nutshell, what the hell happened? Now, sadly, it's not as simple as pointing a single finger at any single fault. It's my understanding that it boils down to a perfect storm of aspects which sunk the Demeter before it could even hit the water. Here's what I found out so far, and why I think what I think. Obviously, this film should have been a massive hit, if nowhere else across the world, at least in the UK, considering that Bram Stoker was Irish and the Demeter was set to land in Whitby, England, where Dracula planned to expand his blood run. Unfortunately, what happened instead is that UK distributor E1 shut down its UK theatrical operations. According to Deadline, the parent company Hasbro announced that the sale of E1 to Lionsgate went for a cool $500 million. Nice. It was a deal that was expected to close by the end of this year, and as is the custom with most major acquisitions, layoffs were inevitable, and it took away about 20% of E1 staff. It doesn't help E1 that Lionsgate had its own UK distribution arm. The last Voyage of the Demeter was clearly the victim of crossfire and is no doubt alone as other films get caught up in the delay while the acquisition does settle, such as Renfield, a riot fest of gore and comedic madness starring Nick Cage and Nicholas Hoult that also should have been a smash hit. It was a fantastic film. As is common practice with horror films, staggered international releases are not uncommon, and it seems there are ongoing delays with the Demeter film getting released elsewhere across the globe, such as in Spain, for example, where it's set to be released by Diamond Films, whose website only suggests the film is coming soon, maybe, with no actual release date info to speak of yet. Fans of India, they're also united with the same painful weight as the Brits and the Spanish. The last Voyage of the Demeter was co-produced by Indian studio Reliance Entertainment, which had previously planned to theatrically release the film in August, a date which obviously has come and gone like a bloodsucker in the night. Hopefully, at least in the case of the UK, Lionsgate eventually decides to shelve the Demeter and release it theatrically at a later date, or sells the film to another distributor who will release the film. Either way, sorry for the wait, my British fans, but you might not want to hold your breath on this one. Not only was the film battered by distribution failings, but the timing couldn't have been much worse, and it really didn't help a whole lot either that the film was forced to compete with 3 other blockbuster films, which comprised the 4th biggest box office weekend in history. Now, bear with me for a moment while I'm going to take a look at some numbers for comparison, just to give you an idea of what the Demeter was up against that particular weekend. So let's look at TMNT, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. That movie grossed $28 million throughout 3,858 theaters opening weekend across North America, and totaled about $51 million globally. Oppenheimer. That movie raked in $80.5 million across North America in 3,761 theaters for a global gross total of about $174 million. Barbie was the biggest draw of the year so far, with $155 million in 4,243 theaters across North America, with about $356 million, which would eventually balloon to over a whopping $1 billion globally. And then we've got the DEMETER, which managed $6.5 million from just 2,715 theaters in North America. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any international total for its upcoming weekend, but I did see that it had eventually grossed $21.6 million globally, effectively proving that no matter the meticulous details that went into crafting that ship, once again, you can lead it to water, you can't make it sail, or avoid hitting rock bottom, despite the best efforts to really make something special, which I believe the filmmakers did. Now, in an obvious effort to try and steer the ship into some profitable waters, just a mere 18 days after the film's release, it hit most streaming platforms where you can rent it for $24.99 Canadian, or buy it in ultra high def for $39.99, which I think you should do, by the way, if you're going to rent it. Unfortunately, whatever sales are being made from the various streaming platforms, that data is not proven to be easy at all to come by. Certainly, if anybody watching this film has any idea or any inside knowledge as far as how much this movie made through the streaming platforms, please do comment down below and share with the classroom. I do hope that the streaming direction gets at least more promotional push than the film got, because to add to the stew of things that can veer a film into the rocks, this film in particular, the WGA and the SAG-AFTRA strike didn't help at all, considering that the rule prohibits the actors and the writers from promoting their film if it happens to belong to certain companies. While the strike no doubt put some extra girth on the stake that seemed to be driven into this film from the onset, I mean, who knows how big of a part that played for this particular film. What I can tell you is that even though I was granted interview access to director Andre Overdahl, original screenwriter Bragi Shute, and the man who played Dracula, actor Javier Botet, I was granted access for those guys so that I could write a feature for Rue Morgue magazine. It wasn't until about a week before its theatrical release, August 11th, that I was finally able to get my eyes on an early screener. And if screeners weren't going out to many, if any of the major horror magazines, such as Rue Morgue, which is the second biggest horror magazine of its kind in North America, well, it's tough to hype up how awesome a movie is if nobody's seen it yet. Since the movie is now on streaming platforms, you're likely to see the odd review pop up, at least online. I imagine that most people have already made up their minds to see it or not to see it. Sadly, a lot of the critics haven't enjoyed The Voyage, with the current Rotten Tomatoes fresh rating of only 49%. But, what do critics know? The audience score for Rotten Tomatoes is 75%. I mean, while you can't please everybody, this film definitely had a polarizing reception amongst the so-called diehard Dracula fans, with many announcing its failure based solely on early trailers and their self-appointed expertise. Frankly, I didn't buy into that crap, as I mentioned in this video that I'm going to put right up over here. One thing I haven't talked about here is if the film's worth seeing, in spite of its box office bombing and scatterbad press. To summarize it, hell yes, you should absolutely do yourself a favor, check it out. The filmmakers and crew, they truly outdid themselves and proved that it could only have been them to bring the Captain's Log portion of the novel Dracula a mere 3 pages to life, and finally answer the question, what the hell happened on that ship? As far as what I personally thought of the movie after seeing an early cut, and then again on opening weekend, then you should probably go ahead and watch this video that I made just for you guys right there. Once you've had a chance to see the film, why don't you come on back down here, let me know what you think. Despite the film's box office flop, which, I mean, we've certainly seen other films in the past that have been box office flops only become, ultimate classic films. Shawshank Redemption, I'm looking at you. Let me know what you thought of this film. Do you think it's going to get the Shawshank Redemption treatment with time? Love to hear your thoughts. Enjoy the movie, guys.